Welcome to No Room for Phonies.
Episode 141.
So the beginning of the month, we talked about the book The Untethered Soul and freedom and the idea of getting your thoughts off of yourself. And so we're just following that up. I mean, it was a fairly deep podcast.
Right,
It
but
was a pretty deep
reflecting
book.
on it, it led to this topic.
Yeah, the top 10 activists who have made a difference and had an impact. And so it just kind of made me think, well, who is it that I respect or admire or think has had an impact? And how do we have an impact on the world? Because these are actually very scary and there's a lot
Disruptive
going on.
times,
Very
a lot
disruptive.
Yep.
And I mean, we look back in history and think, well, there were a lot of disruptive times in history,
But there was the era from the 1950s till the 1980s, 90s, which things were
pretty settled.
Except for the the Cold War.
And we do want to have an influence. We do want to make a difference. And it is very difficult because people who are more centrist and not extreme have a harder time making a difference. But the people that I chose, at least for my list, are people who are not extremists. They're more just people kind of living their lives and choosing certain ways to have an impact.
And I chose people that have impacted me through my life by indirectly, more so than directly, influencing areas of my life and our country and stuff like that. So
I just did a little list of ways to make a positive impact, and the volunteer one at the top, volunteer for sure, dedicate your time, and then donate. Contribute to causes you care about, whether it's through money or goods or services.
And second is educate. You can share your knowledge and expertise by teaching or mentoring others.
And that's part of the reason why we have this podcast. Not that we're experts, but that we're sharing our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that that's out there. I mean, of course, there's a lot of extremes out there in podcasting, and we kind of try to stay more
in the middle. But we'd love to hear your views if you lean one way or the other or see things a little differently than us. It's always good to hear from you.
Environmental stewardship, and by reducing your carbon footprint and recycling and supporting sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a difficult one too, because a lot of the problems that happen in the environment are way up in industry.
Yeah, and very little can we do about it as individuals.
But we just have to teach our kids to kind of do their best.
Mm-hmm.
Kindness is, to me, one of the biggest ones, performing random acts of kindness to brighten someone's day.
Advocacy, speaking up for the causes you believe in, such as social justice, equality, or human rights.
And then there's community engagement, which is the idea of getting involved in your local community by, attending meetings, events, or trying to encourage neighborhood community projects. And
anecdotally, I've heard that volunteerism is decreasing in Canada compared to when we were in our 30s and 40s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is unfortunate.
Well, I think
because
part of the problem,
feel alone.
I think part of the problem is that most families, they have two incomes as well.
Which means all the
sports fiend thing.
Oh.
That has happened to our society, where kids are not just going and playing community sports. They're like trying out for 7, 8, 9-year-olds are trying out for travel teams. And so parents are occupied driving their kids all over the place for, basketball, hockey, soccer, all these things. And I'm not sure what has happened to society to make that a thing. I'm not sure.
No.
Our kids play community sports.
Yeah, but we had them do one sport a season and one artistic venture a season.
But it's just...
And then sometimes they didn't.
It's just wild to me.
It's just the commitment for parents from Thursdays to Sunday nights because of their kids' sports involvement is just...
It's wild.
It's wild.
So
there's no time just to be home as a family.
This decreases the amount of.
Well, I guess some of those parents are then volunteering for those sports organizations.
Yes, but that doesn't necessarily.
No,
that's not
it impacts
improving
their own kids.
Their kids, but not really their communities. I mean, I guess you can say that, but to me, if you run if you're volunteering at the neighborhood soccer, like it's all the kids in the neighborhood and it's a low price so that lots of kids can be involved. And like for example, if I found out there was a community soccer league and there was a kid that couldn't afford to play in it, I would pay for them.
Right.
But it's so expensive now that.
And it used to be like businesses would sponsor little kids teams,
and Tim Hortons still does, I think. Like
no,
a
but
lot of it.
Remember, our kids were in that other league, and it was all sorts of different businesses.
Yes, that sponsored got the kids T-shirts, and of course we have.
And there was a lot of low income.
We say that there's an economic crisis. However, I don't know exactly. There's a lot of money.
Middle
people
class.
seem to have a lot of money. So anyway. That's just a whole nother topic, but supporting small businesses, so choosing to shop locally and support like small businesses in your area. And I did that with our recent purchase of a washing machine.
Right.
I didn't go to Leon's or the Brick. I went to a local place. And,
mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
Mental health awareness is important, promoting mental health awareness and offering support to those in need.
And support doesn't mean stay home in your mother's basement. Support means helping them to get a job, to find meaningful purpose in their lives, to move forward, not to live on the streets. I mean, we heard of a story where a community was trying to raise money to buy a family a tent to live in so they could have a tent in a park. And I'm like, no, that's not what we need to be doing. Put them up in put your money together and give them a first and last for an apartment.
Find them a job.
And a job.
In our area, there's lots of farm work. Get them a job and volunteer to drive them out to the farms for the farm
look after their kids for,
Zachary picked strawberries for a season and cherries. Sorry, wrong fruit.
But anyway, I
worked in vineyards.
I believe
you had a cucumber patch.
Yeah. I believe that there are mental health issues. I believe that we all have our struggles with finding our mental peace and figuring stuff out. Absolutely, we do.
So there's no shaming in it, but definitely offering
But if
support.
if you're not going to find a way to move forward and you're just going to go live in a tent and leave garbage all over the city, which is what's happening here this summer, then I don't see the point. Like, I can't support that.
No.
So anyway, and then
the last one
is spreading positivity, sharing positive messages and actions on social media and in your interactions with others. And that's really what we're trying to do with this podcast, is be encouraging and give people ideas on things that they can read and positive things that we've learned and pass them on as well. So my first, I can't move that. I can never move this up.
No problem. Sorry, I'll do that.
My first person that I want to share as I feel having an impact is Richard Rohr, and we've done some of his books on the podcast. One of the things he says is we do not think ourselves into new ways of living. We live ourselves into new ways of thinking. And
so you basically have to get up and live and make a decision to do something different, and then the thinking will come along.
Yes. So he's a modern day mystic. He's a Franciscan legacy, one marked by love, laughter, peace, justice, and inclusivity. So he is my example of like all that is right about Catholicism.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things about any religion. I'm not just picking on Catholicism, but there's a lot about religiosity that is not right. And he is really an example of all the things that are right about Catholicism. And he has written so many books, and they are so inclusive, and they point to how we can be better. Churches particularly can be better and more accepting, and how, so that he's my first person that I thought had an impact.
All right. Oh, I have to go. So in no particular order,
You didn't have Richard Rohr, I'm assuming.
No, I did not. So I have a Canadian from Ontario called Claude Bennett, and he was a key figure in Ontario's community colleges. So that I chose him because his work impacts.
Is he alive?
No.
Oh, too bad, because he'd probably have a fit.
He would probably have a fit with
Maybe
what's
he's spinning
happening
in his grave.
So, I mean, he had to overcome roadblocks where there was resistance from universities that considered colleges to be inferior competition, societal pooing about trade schools not being necessary, a hard time recruiting faculty for new types of technical programs back in the beginning.
Yeah.
Challenges in developing new curricula that was different from both high school and university programs. But he persisted, and as a result, Ontario has 24 polytechnical colleges. They're not like American community colleges. It's a different concept model. And it's one of the reasons why I work.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So my second one is George Clooney's impact extends beyond acting, and I think that he and his wife Amal Clooney have had a huge impact, encompassing significant humanitarian and political engagement. He's known for his advocacy work, particularly regarding the Darfur conflict and human rights issues, and his efforts have raised awareness and spurred actions on global crises. Through the Clooney Foundation for Justice, he and his wife Amal support those facing human rights abuses.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's got lots and lots of money, but he puts
I think they're low key. I mean, but
yes,
maybe I guess they're not a hot topic that the press follows, but they consistently just keep working on things.
And he's doing something on Broadway right now. He continues, and she's a lawyer.
And she practices.
Yeah. And they have their twins or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just think that they are persistent.
Right. So one important person that contributed a lot to society and was an activist in his time was Johannes Gutenberg, who invented the movable type printing press. And he had all sorts of barriers to move forward. The church and the political authorities were very concerned about the uncontrolled spread of information. So already back then, they had a problem with the freedom of the press. There was competition from established manuscript production systems, so there was other ways. They were just sluggish and more expensive. And there was a union back then called the Guild of scribes and copyists, and their livelihoods were threatened. So he had his life threatened on occasion as well
because
for
of that. Yeah.
But without the movable type printing press, we wouldn't be where we are now. I mean, now we've moved digital, but society wouldn't have come out this fast along without the press.
Well, reading is what
reading is what moves us forward.
Yes, it really does. And so my third one is Barbara Kingsolver, because her characters she's an author, for those who don't know. She's written a plethora of books. I've read almost all of them, I think, now.
Did you ever do a book review on her books on the podcast?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, but her characters are frequently written around struggles for social equality, such as hardships faced by undocumented immigrants, the working poor, and single mothers, like lots of her books. Other common themes in her work are like the balancing of individuality with the desire to live in a community, and the interaction and conflict between humans and ecosystems in which they live. There's one about butterflies that is beautiful. Kingsolver has been said to use prose and engaging narratives to make historical events, such as the Congo struggles for independence, more interesting and engaging to the average reader. She's the one that wrote the Poisonwood Bible.
I'm impressed by her study of linguistics and accents and language dialects and whatever, because she brings them into her writing.
And she reads her own books on Audible, so it's very
and she changes her voice.
Yeah, she does.
It's really amazing.
She's quite a remarkable person. I think she's had a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. My third person is Cosimo de' Medici from the Medici family back in Italy.
Oh, right.
During the Renaissance. And I believe he's important because he elevated art into commercial. Like artists could make money, could make money from their art, and they'd be sponsored, and already aristocratic families would hire portrait painters and things like that.
Portraitists. I don't know how you say that, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
I can't remember the word for it. But so he was merchant class, so he would have been like the owner of a blue collar type of thing. So they didn't trust him because he wasn't of blue blood.
Okay.
And the church was suspicious because supposedly he was a heretic. He supported secular artists as well as religious art, and that would have been a no-no. That would have been a shift, and so he was very instrumental in the Renaissance for changing how society embraces art.
Right. So my fourth one is Leonard Cohen. His activism was complex and multifaceted.
Can you say who he is? Sorry.
Leonard Cohen is a famous Canadian musician.
Oh, right.
It was often intertwined with his artistic expression and personal beliefs. He wasn't a traditional activist, which is part of the reason why I liked this. Mm-hmm. Cohen's work engaged with themes of social justice, peace, spirituality, and he was also involved in specific events that sparked controversy and debate, particularly related to concerts in Israel and Palestine.
And this is back in the 70s.
Yeah, because he's passed away. Mm-hmm. But I just want to move down.
Yep.
Themes of social justice and humanism. So Cohen's songs like Democracy and others explore themes of societal issues and morality and the human condition. Some analysis considers Cohen's songs to be a form of social commentary addressing political problems through artistic expressions, and some writings on the topic of Cohen's activism suggest his work often emphasizes compassion and love as responses to societal discord.
I need to
Hallelujah,
right?
Right. Is his,
oh yeah,
right?
Okay, that's him.
Yeah.
I need to add him to my Spotify playlist.
Cohen's performance in Israel and his support for Israeli and Palestinian organizations working for peace were met with both support and criticism, of course.
Because he worked for both sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cohen's donation of concert proceeds to peace groups and his performance in Ramat Gan near Tel Aviv were actions intended to express solidarity with Israelis and Palestinians. However, these actions were also met with protests, with some arguing that they didn't go far enough to address the underlying issues of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Well, I'm not sure how a poet and a singer is going to address the underlying issues. That's a bigger group of people.
I know.
He drew awareness to it.
A planned concert in Ramallah was canceled amidst the boycott campaign against Israel, highlighting the complexities of artistic engagement with political issues.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1960s, Cohen criticized Quebecois separatists in his poem Disguises, highlighting a more conservative streak in his worldview.
Interesting.
And then some interpretations of Cohen's lyrics suggest his art suggests that individuals can contribute to positive change through imperfect actions by embracing their imperfections. If you've ever read about him, he was a very imperfect man. Like he lived
he had rough times.
Yeah, and he had Marianne, right? There's a book about his lover or whatever.
Okay.
In essence, Leonard, he was a boy of the 60s, right? So in essence, Leonard Cohen's activism was not a straightforward political movement, but rather an artistic and personal engagement with social issues, particularly those related to peace, justice, and human connection. So I read quite a bit about him. I mean, his name came to me, but I read quite a bit about him. And part of me, it was because I was like, okay, Richard Rohr is from the States. George Clooney is from the States. Like, I need to get Canadian here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking about, well, who is it that I have read or listened to or thought about? And then these people came to mind, and then I just did a little research. So your
Cool.
fourth one.
So my fourth one is Tommy Douglas, who was the Premier of Saskatchewan in 1944 to 1961. And he is considered the father of Canadian Medicare.
Oh.
Yep. And he introduced Canada's first universal healthcare system. He had lots of opposition from doctors and private insurance companies because they were going to lose income.
Right.
There were actually doctors' strikes in Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow, I don't think people would know about
No.
that, eh? Like, that's interesting.
There was inequality from province to province, so the federal government had to step in to equalize the funding for
Right.
the things. It happened during the Cold War, so there were people accusing him of being a communist and a socialist. And so it was tricky. And of course, Canada's healthcare system has stuff that needs to be worked on.
But it's not the American one.
But it's not the American one, which we always hold up as it's not the American one, but we still need to improve it.
Of course we do. So my fifth one is Margaret Atwood. 17 books, 16 novels, 10 fictional books, along with short fictional stories, children books, and a graphic novel. She's had the Man Booker Prize, the Franz Kafka Prize, and other like prestigious awards and that have given her international acclaim. And as one of the most well-known Canadian writers of all time, she remains an active participant on the literary and social stages today, obviously known for the dystopian Handmaid's Tale, which has since been reworked. Like it's a film and television. So she is a Canadian voice that also speaks out for environmental causes. So I thought, if you don't talk about Margaret Atwood as having an impact, like as a Canadian, holy cow, you're like really.
I know. And international impact, not just within Canada.
Not just Canada, but whatever, yes.
So somebody else who's probably little known, but very important for my life because of my career, is Keith Spicer. He was Canada's first official languages commissioner, and he was tasked with implementing and monitoring the country's new bilingual laws and policies. So there were a lot of Anglophones that didn't want to learn French. There were a lot of Quebecois that were saying the Anglophones weren't doing enough and that there wasn't enough dispersal of French across the country. The federal government resisted it. And there was public criticism from both language communities for not going far enough or for going too far.
Of course.
And there's still tensions around it, but I'm proud that Canada has 2 official languages. And I think we need to add our Inuit and Indigenous languages to the official Languages Act.
Well, if Wab Kinew becomes Prime Minister, as I hope he does someday,
there's a chance.
That's probably a big chance. So my other one, I never thought that I would be saying this about a Republican strategist, but I watch The View and I watch Ana Navarro, and I think that like she's a powerful woman and she does not back down.
And I had no idea she was a Republican strategist.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why she has a sought after voice in Republican politics and an advisor for presidential hopeful. She's poised to play a big role in the GOP response to immigration and Hispanic outreach. Like, she just doesn't stop. She has the ear of a lot of elected officials, and she's willing to speak truth to power without reservation, like without reservation. Holding back.
She does
and she's
not.
funny.
She is funny, and she's in touch with political issues. Like I mean, can you move it up?
If you want to know about the terrible concentration
And
camps,
she
basically, in the States. She's one to follow about
She discusses the latest hot button issues in politics. She gives audiences insider's view of upcoming elections, and she has in her head a roadmap of where the country is headed. She most recently served as the National Hispanic Co-Chair for Governor John Huntsman's 2012 campaign and the National Co-Chair of John McCain's Hispanic Advisory Council, where she was also the national surrogate for the McCain 2008 campaign. She's played a role in several federal and state races in Florida. She served on Governor Jeb Bush's transition team in 1998 and was his first director of immigration policy in the executive officer of the governor.
So she's done a lot more than I knew that she had done.
In 2001, she served as ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Commission, devoting much of her energy to condemning human rights abuses in Cuba. In 1999, she worked in the private sector, representing private and public clients on federal issues, particularly related to immigration, trade, and policy affecting Central America. In 1997, she was special advisor to the government of Nicaragua and was one of the primary advocates for NACARA, Nicaraguan Adjustment and Central American Relief Act. Navarro is a graduate of the University of Miami in 1993. She obtained her BA in Latin American Studies and Political Science. She obtained a Juris Doctorate in 1997. She was born in Nicaragua, and in 1980, as a result of the Sandinista revolution, she and her family immigrated to the United States.
Wow.
So she's quite, and she is funny.
Mm-hmm.
She speaks her mind. I think like she's not intimidated.
And she just reminds me of so many Spanish women that I know from childhood, and the mannerisms and the gestures and the tone of voice. It's just fire.
Yeah, she has a fire for sure. So that's my number 6.
My number 6 is a Canadian cyclist and speed skater, Clara Hughes, and this ties into the mental health awareness. So she has won multiple Olympic medals in more than one sport. And she became a huge mental health advocate and still is a public spokesperson around mental health in Canada, particularly depression and mental health issues generically, and athletes that struggle with mental health issues and challenges because of the pressures on them to win.
That's how
parents who overdo it.
I kind of worry about that with kids now.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, oh, he really wants to do this, or he really wants to. And I just don't know any 10-year-old kids that just want to be on the road all the time.
And not at home chilling.
They're kind of convinced of it.
Yeah.
I think anyway, that's just a whole.
That's just us.
My number 7 is Wab Kinew for a million reasons.
Premier of Manitoba.
Yes. And NDP, which shockingly, whatever.
We tend not to vote NDP.
But I mean, I have in the past, but I just think that he is, he's honest, and I love if you want to follow him, his social media presence is amazing.
Amazing.
He talks
and what they're doing in Manitoba's healthcare system is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the speed with which he is changing
technology is that to him.
Yeah. But he also just says, you are doing this and get going.
Yeah. Well, and they have this thing now across Manitoba where you can find all your medical records, get a doctor. It's
all across the province.
And he pulls it up on his phone
in the cloud.
And he talks about how what he can do. And during the wildfires, they had all these, a lot of information available online for people.
Within 48 hours, they had all sorts of things.
And he went on TV or wherever on internet and said, you need to get out. I'm telling you, do this. And then he would call reporters on, well, your job is not to do that. It's to I think he's a very interesting person, but he's my number 7. His background is very interesting too. And he's written quite a few books. The Reason You Walk is Wab Kinew. He hasn't had an easy life.
No. Okay, my next person I'm not sure if I have 10. I thought so, but anyway, is Nellie McClung. She was a Canadian.
That's my number 10.
Okay. I'll save it. I'll do something else then.
No, it's fine, but
then you can go back to 8 and 9.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, because anyway, I just thought it was important to point out
suffragist.
Yep.
And
somebody who made changes for women, and her barriers, other than being a woman in a male-dominated political establishment, she was attacked personally and publicly with public ridicule. Back then, the travel across Canada was expensive and tedious and long, but she did a lot of work organizing across Canadian distances, just using good old like a postal system.
Yeah.
And she had to depend economically on male family members while pursuing activism. So that was...
I don't know what I put.
She struggled with that.
I don't know what I put in the bottom. She began her career in writing with the 1908 book Sowing Seeds in Danny, and would eventually publish 16 books, including 2 autobiographies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she was my number 10. My number 8 is Gloria Steinem, for many reasons. She's a woman activist. I heard her with Julia Louis-Dreyfus on Wiser Than Me, and so I would encourage you to listen to that podcast. It really gives you a lot of great insights into her as an activist and for women's rights and
the crap that she had to live through as an activist.
So
okay, so I mean, this might come out from left field, and a lot of people might not know who he was. Keith Green was an influential musician in contemporary Christian music in the 70s, and obviously it was the 60s and 70s. So the Flower Children and the Free Love movement was mostly secular, and then the Christian counterpart was the Vineyard movement and other things like that. So he was kind of given a hard time by the churches because his music was more contemporary. So he would have been one of the first musicians to add drums to his piano and much more upbeat.
And was he killed?
He died in a plane crash.
Yeah. That's sad.
With one of his sons.
Yeah.
The music industry, finally he got a company that would publish his albums, but they wanted to control his message and his music. In the beginning, he was just trying to build a following, so he gave away albums for free or whatever you can afford. So that was expensive because he was basically printing vinyl records and covering that cost and then giving them away.
Okay.
Anyway, and he was instrumental for me in continuing to learn to play piano when I got bored after about 6 years of classical music.
Right.
His music came on the scene, and I just fell in love with his style and the complexity of his pieces and the upbeatness of it. So anyway, he was a person that's influential,
and he's still his songs are still around. I mean,
they're still sung, and versions have been changed and whatever. But
so then my number 9 or not 10, I guess now, whatever, the 10th one was Viola Desmond. She was a Canadian civil and women's rights activist and businesswoman of Black Nova Scotian descent. So I really felt that it was important for us to talk about our racial issues in Canada. And in 1946, she challenged racial segregation at a cinema in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, by refusing to leave a whites-only area of the Roseland Theatre. I think we sometimes think that blackness, like that kind of
that people
stuff,
of color in Canada,
people of color was better. I mean, it was.
Well,
I mean,
there were issues in all different communities. Yes, Harriet Tubman brought black ex-slaves to Canada, and they were safer here.
But yes, I just wanted to point out that was a thing. So was that
I didn't
all
know.
of yours?
No, I have one more. I didn't know that we had whites-only areas in public buildings.
So I just thought that was interesting.
Another thing for us to be ashamed of, but move forward on.
Yeah,
just like
for
our
sure.
truth and reconciliation.
And just keep watching the States and just avoid doing the things that are happening there.
Yeah. And my last person is Kaif Fassett. He is a textile artist, and if it weren't for him publishing a book in 1987, I would probably stopped knitting forever and never taken it up. Never have ever tried designing.
And you got to meet him.
I got to meet him. He was doing a quilting exhibition and classes, so I got to be his assistant. That's already about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And his barriers were, of course, having to be a male in a female-dominated craft. The academic art world wanted to diminish his textile as handcrafts, where he was elevating it into art.
His fabrics are beautiful. You can find, like, even when you go to places like Lens Mills, they have sections of his fabric that you can buy. You can
still buy his quilting fabric. And he was very unconventional in his color combination. So back in the day when he was coming out with colors, he couldn't find the bright colors he wanted. There was, in British wool, the colors were still from the post-war era, and they were all dull, very bland colors. And so he spiced up the industry, and he eventually had to find a company that would take on his colors and dye his yarns, and they were the Rowan Yarn Company, and they're still big today, but they did it because for him, and then they became a huge company.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that is our 19, because we had one together. That was interesting. Can you just scroll down? I just want to talk about the end of the month. So August 15th, we're going to just talk about creativity.
Nice.
So I want to talk about the book, The Artist's Way. So The Artist's Way is actually a spiritual path to higher creativity. And it's a 1992 self-help book by Julia Cameron. The book was written to help people with artistic, creative recovery. So for people who have had a hard time with whatever.
With life.
And it teaches not life necessarily, but sometimes they just feel stuck in their creativity.
Oh, in their creativity. Oh, I'm sorry. I understand.
It teaches techniques and exercises to assist people in gaining self-confidence and harnessing their own creative talents and skills. And it does a lot about writing, but I don't know. I just think it's an interesting book for people to consider.
There's designing block.
I just think it's an interesting book to consider. So I want to look at that book. And so that will be August 15th, and it'll be kind of a bit of a book review. So
excellent.
Good.
Well, thank you for joining us as we shared our 10 top activists or people of influence.
From our perspective. And I mean, the whole idea of the untethered soul is that you are not caught up within yourself and that you are able to give to others. So that fit with our theme for the month
of making a positive impact in others' lives.
Yes. So thanks for joining us for episode 141 about activists.
Good night.